मेषः इति एतादृशः महान् कार्यक्रमः समायोज्यमानः वर्तते। तस्य दशमसत्रं भवति इदानीं समारभ्यते सद्यः। तत्र तावत् सर्वेषामपि स्वागतं व्याहरामि आदौ। अनन्तरम् अत्रैव अस्माकं मध्ये विराजमाना वर्तते एवं तत्र नटराजगुरु परंपरा परा वर्तते। संध्यापुरे च महाभागा अत्र विराजमाना वर्तते। सा तावत् तस्याः किञ्चित् ईषदिव परिचयमत्र करोमि। सर्वेपि यद्यपि जानन्ति तथापि अस्माकं यः सम्प्रदायः वर्तते तदनुसारेण एषा तावत् महाभागा भरतनाट्यस्य गुरुः भवति। सम्प्रति संगीतनाटक अकादेम्याः अध्यक्षा भवति। अनन्तरं लेखिका वर्तते, शिक्षाविद् च भवति। संस्कृते भारतीयनृत्ये च PhD अपि सम्प्राप्ता। एवं रीत्या बहुभिः पुरस्कारैः पुरस्कृता अपि वर्तते। एतादृशी या महाभागा अत्र अस्माकं सौभाग्यात् विराजमाना वर्तते। तामहम् अनुरुन्धे स्वीयम् आध्यक्षभाषणं विधाय अस्मान् अनुगृह्णातु। ततः परम् अग्रे याः प्रस्तुतयः भवन्ति तासामत्र प्रदर्शनं भविष्यति। कृपया प्लीज़। ततः प्रागेव अध्यक्षभाषणात् प्रागेव अहम् इदानीं सम्प्रार्थये डॉक्टर के श्रीनिवासराव महोदयान् ते आगत्य अस्माकम् अध्यक्षमहोदयां सम्मानयन्तु इति।
ओम यस्य स्मरण मात्रेण ज्ञानम उत्पद्यते स्वयं य एव सर्व संप्राप्ति तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। नमो नमः। सन्मान्य सभास्थ सर्व सभासदानां प्रणामः। पुरेचा कुलोत्पन्न आचार्य श्री पार्वती कुमार गुरुवर्यस्य कृपा प्रसादेन अभिषिक्ता तस्य मार्गदर्शन पंथानं अनुसरन्ती संस्कृतानि अनुसारिणी संस्कृत प्रिया भरत मुनि प्रेरिता संध्या अहम मदीय सर्वेभ्यः हार्दिक शुभकामना प्रकटयामि। I thank Shri Srinivas Varakhedi ji, Srinivas Rao ji for inviting me in this Vidvat Sabha. Sanskrit and dance are indisputable and indispensable to each other. Both streams flow from a large reservoir of cultural history and Indian ethos. While Sanskrit is the mother of all language, dance is the pulse of all Indian people. Indian classical dance, as we all call it today, is a Shastriya Nritya or a classical dance because it is rooted in the Shastra, the ancient Indian treatises on dance and dramaturgy, which are all composed in Sanskrit. The most ancient lexicon on Natya is Bharata's Natya Shastra, which is the fountainhead of all knowledge. To to learn and understand the roots of the dance, and even to expand the horizon and dive into the creativity and innovation, one should study Sanskrit. For a student of Indian classical dance, this study begins right from the basics and is seamless part of the dance education, because Sanskrit terminology is a part of dance vocabulary. Right from chanting the shloka, whether it is Angikam Bhuvanam Yasya or Samudra Vasane Devi Parvatastana Mandale or Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu. Chanting a shlok in the form of a prayer before doing the namaskar to learning basic steps and the technical terminology, a student learns Sanskrit at every steps. One does not need a separate class to teach the theory, because dance theory and practice are interconnected. More informal, we all do this hasta, which is known as a namaskar. For this, we call it Anjali Hasta. So when the student comes in the class, we tell, Are pranam karo Guruji ko, bow down to Guruji, do this namaskar. What is this? Pataka talayor yogad anjali kara iritaha devata guru vipranam namaskareshu anukramat karya shiro mukho urastau viniyoger anjalir budhaihi. On the head, you are going to do the namaskar to the God. And that is why we see in the temple so many old ladies take the pradakshina, keeping the hand up and do this. This is the God namaskar. And from the Gnana Chakra, between the Chakshu and the ear, the gurus and the mothers and the fathers are bow down. And from the Hriday, from my heart, I bow down to all of you. Oh my, this is the first lesson when you come to the dance class, music class, any other class. You are taught this. Why you are taught this? Because this is the Sanskrit text which gives you the basic knowledge, the sanskar, the values which comes to you. And if you don't understand, and that is why there is a rule in all India that your child or your student or they should be connected with at least one Indian art form which we give them the values and the norms. Beyond that, in India, classical dance, when we have a namaskar in tal. Now when it comes in the tal, which tal you are doing, what are you doing? So we just say nothing but, do you know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? She will say, yes, I know 9. So we tell them, okay, 1 stand for Indu, 2 for the Chakshu, 3 for the Agni, 4 for the Vedas, Panchaban, Shatrutu, Saptarushi, Ashtavasu and Navapara Brahma. So your namaskar is in the count of 9. How the 9 will be? Tai didi tai tai, tai didi tai tai tai, tai didi tai tajum tajum tatta. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So why the 9? So she knows about the 9 counts. She knows about the tal. What is the tal? Takara Shankar Prokto Lakara Shakti Ruchyate Shiva Shakti Samayoga Talanama Bhidiyate Sanyoge cha Viyoge cha Talayor Ubhayor api Vartate Vyapti Manakala Satala iti Katyate. I mean, it's a small bit of the first standard girl when she is entering the class. She knows what is the 9 counts in Sanskrit. She knows why you are doing namaskar. It is the Atma and Paramatma. Where, how to do the namaskar? She will say, gurus will be doing, I'm doing namaskar. Then she'll ask the mother, Mama, she's my guru or she's my tai? Then she said, no, she's your tai also and guru also. Then she'll do the namaskar like this. So this is how the sanskaras in the art form transfers from one generation to another generation. After the number 9, when she's doing all these counts, there is so much of confusion because now there is a group mass teaching. So then first thing we teach is the Angushta, Tarjani, Madhyama, Anamika, Kanishnika. Now what is the use of the Angushta for the Petrudan, Tarjani for the Pindadan, Madhyama for no use, Anamika for the Swapar and Guru Vandana and etc. So they learn the basic names of the fingers, basic names of this. So how do you connect the Sanskrit and dance? There is a complete connection. Those who are not teaching this, those who are not learning this, it means there is no right way of learning. Another Again we go ahead with the namaskar. Then we'll say, okay, now in this talam you have to do the namaskar, adi talam, 8 complete, and the 9 samam. You have to do the tarjani, madhyama and angushta together. She'll do it. Then the question comes from the child is, why this hand? Why no this hand? Then there is an explanation that when you go for the temple, when you go to the temple and you take the flowers, you take the coconut, you take the deepa, you take many things and offer it to the God. In the same way, the nartaki or the dancer uses her body and her hands and her complete soul and body as a sadhana. And the Kataka Mukha Hasta is for the Kusuma Vachaye, Shikhara Hasta is for the Arghyam, and Ardha Chandra is for the plate Tatake, and Pataka is Sambodhane, and Anjali is for the Namaskar. So how our Namaskar counts goes is like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of you, 7, 8 and 9 samam. So, if masses who watches this, they said, oh, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But in this, there is so much of spiritual knowledge, so much of philosophy, and so much of sanskaras goes that we don't understand. The standing, the first pose which you saw, Samapadasthana, which represented the Sattva Guna. Out of the Sattva Rajatama, we start and begin with the Sattva Guna, and that is why all the sculptures in Indian gods are mainly in the Sattva Gunatmak Paristhiti. Then, to represent the Vishnu, sometime it is a Rajogunatmak Vaishnav Sthan, and sometime with the Shiva Tamogunatmak, or maybe the Sthiti Samhar Paristhiti. There is a different vrittis are taught to the student in the beginning. Very simple, we give them simple examples and teach them. I was the first, when I went to my Guru's house, I learned, he taught me first shloka when I was not knowing what Sanskrit was. I was very young. So from the Bhagavad Gita, he taught me one very beautiful shlok. Yattad agre vishamivam pariname amrutopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. The shlok was on the Satvik Sukh. In the beginning, it is just like a poison, but at the end, it will be like a nectar. So I didn't understand. I said, okay, I understood. But then he gave me one example, that you are a student. Whole year, your mummy, your father, your acharyas, everyone making you study. And the people, other friends of yours are going and doing, they are playing in the playground, they are watching TV, they are doing other things. And at the end in the school, when the results come, you stood the first. And that is the Antim Satvik Sukha. Of course, it is Kshanik or but the whole sadhana is there, and that Satvik Sukha you have to follow. So, my basic learning started with this one Bhagavad Gita shlok. Another very beautiful shlok I would like to recite for this very young dancers who comes and do the Aramandi or Ayata Mandalam. In Sanskrit, we call it Ayata Mandalam. Vitasti antaritau padau krutva tu chaturashrakau tiryaka kunchita janubhyam sthitir Ayata Mandalam. Now, the first, very first shlok which says about the Ayata Mandalam. Now, the shlok, it starts with the Vitasti. What is the meaning of Vitasti? The question comes is, there is a Uttam Dashatala Vidhi Evam Manani Bhavanti. Manam, Pramanam, Unmanam, Parimanam, Upamanam, Alambanam, Manam iti Shan Manani. There are 6 types. So, Angushta Pradeshinibhyam Mitam Pradesham, Angushta Madhyamabhyam Mitam Talam, Angushta Anamikabhyam Mitam Vitasti, Angushta Kanishtikabhyam Mitam Gokarnam. So if these are the measurements especially used for the sculpture making, and this is the measurement are given in our Sanskrit dance books, also in the Abhinadarpan, in the definition, many definitions of the standing postures and sitting postures, these mana or the pramanas are used. So how the Sanskrit and all the art forms are interlinked and interconnected. This is the example of this which we also learn. Of course, my Guruji, like Acharya Parvati Kumarji, who was a strong believer of this connection between the theory and practice, and his research was driven towards bridging this gap. Because it was during his time, he was realized that how dancers and scholars work independently of each other, and that was a cause of several unresolved discrepancies. So, to further prove this, Guruji took a mammoth task of choreographing the Sanskrit treatise Abhinay Darpanam in performative form. Bringing to life the ancient Indian Sanskrit text was a path-breaking effort of preventing the text from gathering dust into a corner. Because through this, he proved any Shastric text, whether it is Natya Shastra, Abhinay Darpanam, Sangeet Darpan, Sangeet Ratnakar, anything are in reality meant to be a Prayoga Shastra. And that is what very important, that because we people think that Shastras are for the Shastra. Just now you saw the example of Jayadeva's Geet Govinda. He gave us such a beautiful example from the Shastras, how the practice is still prevalent and how the changes are taking place. In the same manner, the Sanskrit grammar rules were choreographed by Acharya Parvati Kumarji. Now, in this research work, it was choreographed on me, and I am the only dancer in the world performing 324 shlokas on stage for 3.5 hours. But how did this work? So he always used to say that I don't want Shabdartha, I don't want Shabda Shakti Abhidar, I want to go beyond that, Lakshana, Vyanjana. So when it comes the Varuna Hasta, how are you going to represent Varuna? So the first is right is Pataka, left is Shikhara. This is the pose people do it now for Varuna. He said no. We went into the Nirukta Shastra, Vru Unan Varunaha, and the one who is surrounded by the water. So the hand was used this, and the Adhipati of the water is the Varuna. Like this, the Kutsitam Beram Yasya Saha, the Kubera was presented in such manner. So accordingly, the meanings were taken on a different level. So to know and to understand I feel Sanskrit is very, very important. In Vishnu Dharmottar Puran, these 64 art forms are together, where Vajra and Markandeya Samvad is there, where he's talking about how the king was forced to learn first the Shilpa, then to Chitra, then to music, because Vinatu Nritya Shastrena Chitra Sutra Sudurvidhidam. It is the dance paratext from sculpture and Shilpa Shastra, which is also in Sanskrit. Because Nrutyam Vadyanugam Proktam, Vadyam Geetanuvritti cha atha Geeta Pradhanatvad. So Sahitya, just now our Guruji, he was giving such a beautiful stotras, Hara Hara Shankara Shiva Shankar, Jai Jai Shankara Shiva Shambho, and many other stotras which he recited. I really remembered and I felt like dancing on it, because your Sahitya is the body of Sahitya, or the poetry or the stotra are the body of what you are going to present. So Kaver Antargatam Bhavam Bhavayan Bhava Uchyate. It is the one, what is Bhav? What is bhav? It is an external manifestation of internal feeling. So when it comes to external manifestation, antargata vikarasya bahya prakatikaranam anga vikshepaha. So when we talk about the anga vikshepa, it is the antargata vikara. How the antargata vikara is going to come? It is through the text or the script or the word which is going to bring that bhav into you. And that is how the our nritya, vadya and script are connected, and all other art forms are in such a manner related to each other. Very beautifully, the first shlok of the Angikam Bhuvanam Yasya was supposed to be choreographed by Guruji, and I remember he said, how are you going to do it? And being a Sanskrit student, I was very enthusiastic about the choreography. So I said, can I show Guruji? Guruji said, yes, please come and show me. So I started, can we show it Angikam? He said something else. I said, can we show it Angikam? He said something else. I said, can we show it Angikam? He said something else. And finally, after 10 versions, I thought that he is trying to take my exam. So I surrendered and I said, Guruji, I'm failed. So that time, it was, he suggested that Angika means what? Anga? So do you know the definition of Anga? I said, yes, Guruji, because we were young. So Anganam yatra shiro hasta vaksha katitautau pada viti shaduktani. So I said, very good. So you know the Shang. And he said, always when you are doing a choreography, first learn the word, understand the word, go to the root of the word. Now choreograph Angikam. That was his sentence. So Angika means the Shadanga. Shad Anga should be presented. After many tries, finally he choreographed it. So it is the Anga means where the Shira is also there, Hasta is also there, Vaksha is there, Parshva is there, Katitata is there, and the Pada is shown. So the one Angika word, people think, oh, she did Angikam. What is that? Then came the Bhuvanam. What is Bhuvana? Bhuvanam is Bhu Bhuva. It is Bhu Bhuva, all these Bhu, Bhuva, Swa, Maha, Jana, Tapa, and Satya. These are shown in the body movement of Bhuvanam. And Yasya. Yasya is who? Yasya is you. You means who? Only the God? No. Where is the God? Do you have seen the God? No. Then how are you going to present that Yasya? Yasya will be presented into you. The Shiva Tattva which is in you will be presented in the Yasya. So, so it was Angikam, Bhuvanam, Yasya, and like this all 324 shlokas were taken care with one each word. First going to the root of each word, understand it, and then choreograph it. And that was a marathon which we did it for 6 years. To choreograph this, he took that 6 years to present this. So, the basic purpose of learning dance is just not a dance, but along with dance, the ethos, aesthetic, moral values, learning, etc. should be a part of it. And the purpose of art is to make the better human beings. And that is why I always tell my students that to be a good artist, you first need to be a good human being. And Sanskrit Subhashitas, Vedas, Upanishads, Upavedas, Mahabharata stories, Purana stories, Ramayana stories, or etc., the literature stories, which will be an optimum way of life, which will teach you the treasure trove of the Indian lifestyle. And further, Sanskrit is also used exclusively or extensively in the composition of dance through the literature, poetry, and the songs. They all form a major source of inspiration for Indian artists and traditional art forms. Without the Sanskrit, how will one know about these treasures? So the depth of the language is so profound that the more one delves into, the more meaning one derives. And the beauty of Sanskrit is equivalent to the beauty of dance with their beautiful interpretations. My Guruji has choreographed one Sanskrit text on me. Further on his footsteps, I tried choreographing Chatur Damodara's Sangeet Darpanam Nrityadhyay, Sharangadeva's Sangeet Ratnakar, Kumbharaja's Nritya Ratna Koshas, and many other texts. My thesis on Angikabhinaya. had reference from more than 40 different Sanskrit texts, and this shows how rich our scriptures are. Now come the question of these youngsters, because youngsters always think that Shastra restricts. They all feel performance is very good. Performance, you clap, you sing, you dance, and you get, no. Do you think that Shastra restricts? Then first mistake, they all have to, because one of the very beautiful shloka I would like to quote from the Bharata's Natya Shastra, Akrutya cheshtaya chinnai jatya vignaya vastutaha swayam vitarka kartavyam nrittabhinayanam prati. Means the experts are to use the body movement or the hand gestures according to the popular practices, and in this manner they should have an eye on the movement or on the object or on the spare or on the quantity and appropriateness and the mode. If you see all these parts of one character, you can create your own movement, and you are allowed to create your own movement. So, this verse is one of the instances where Bharata in his Natya Shastra encourages the creativity in dance artistry. To elaborate, he explained that we can mold the principle codified in the Shastra in accordance with the popular practices, one's own experiences and observation in tandem with the contemporary presentation or appropriateness. The treasures of information in the Natya Shastra is Bharata's own imagination and interpretation, and one can expand their creative canvas and use this technique and methods as means to innovate. It is this verse that reminds us that the Shastras are not mere stagnating, obsolete sheets of paper, but are meant to be in a constant utilization by means of references, adaptations, interpretations, and appropriate applications. That is the manner in which change can be brought out in your own form. And lastly, for the Shastra and Sampradaya, being the Shastra and Sampradaya Vidyarthi or a student, I would like to quote from the Abhinay Darpan, the last shloka says that etascha nartana vidho shastrata sampradayataha satam anugrahenaiva vigneyo nanyatha bhuvihi. The usage of any hand gesture, legs, tan, mandala, etc. in dance ought to be learned either from the canonical literature or with the observation of the tradition and along with the Ashirvad of the grace of the Gurus, and not through any other means like a Google Guru. I feel that we all need to understand this, and let's all of us come together and fill this gap of Shastra and Sampradaya and bridge this with a very beautiful Subhashita, Yaha patati likhati pashyati paripruchati panditan upachrayati तस्य दिवाकर किरणै नील नलिनी दलम एवं विकास्यते बुद्धि ही. आप पढ़िए, लिखिए, देखिए, क्वेश्चन पूछिए, पंडितों के साथ रहिए, तो आपकी बुद्धि का विकास होगा. और शास्त्र और संप्रदाय और गुरुओं को वंदन करके मैं यही विराम रखती हूँ. जय हिंद.
अतीव मनोहारी व्याख्यानं प्रदर्शनपुरं पुरस्सरं तत्र इदं वक्तव्यम् एषा महाभागा साक्षात् कलास्वरूपा वर्तते. यतः नटराजशिरोभूषां चन्द्रकलामिव नाट्यकलां स्वशिरसि ददतीं सन्ध्याश्रियं वयमिह स्तुमः कलास्वरूपां ताम् इति. तत्र एषा महाभागा साक्षात् तादृशी वर्तते. अतः अस्याः कृते धन्यवादाः. इदानीं तावत् मध्ये अस्माकं तावत् अस्यैव विश्वविद्यालयस्य पूर्वकुलपतयः आचार्याः हरेकृष्ण शतपथी महाभागाः अत्र समागताः सन्ति. एवमेव के रामसुब्रह्मण्यन् महोदयाः IIT मुम्बैतः एवं दोर्बर प्रभाकर शर्माणः आचार्याः महान्तः सुकवयः अन्ये च ये अध्यापकाः इदमिदानीम् अत्र प्रविष्टाः सन्ति. सर्वेषामपि पुनः स्वागतं व्याहरामि. अग्रे तावत् इदानीं प्रदर्शनपरव्याख्यानम् अन्यदेकं वर्तते. अग्रे भरतनाट्यनृत्यं, तदर्थं यामिनी मुथन्ना महाभागा अत्र सम्प्रार्थ्यते. सा तावत् यथा एषा महाभागा वर्तते ततो न्यूना नास्ति इति वक्तुं शक्यते। यतोहि सापि स्वयं भरतनाट्यस्य नर्तकी, अध्यापिका, नृत्यनिर्देशिका वर्तते। तस्याः गुरुवर्याः भवन्ति डाक्टर् वसुन्धरा दोरस्वामी महाभागाः। अनन्तरं योगसाधना अपि तया तत्र साधिता वर्तते। एतादृशरीत्या बहुविधख्यातिप्राप्ता सापि वर्तते। नाट्यकला विपञ्ची, शृङ्गारमणि, एतादृश बहुविध उपाधयः अपि प्राप्ताः सन्ति इति तया महाभागया। तामहमिदानीम् अनुबन्धे आगत्य कृपया प्रदर्शनपुरस्सरं स्वव्याख्यानं विदधातु इति यामिनी मुथन्ना महाभागाः।
धन्यवाद। नमस्ते सभा महोदय। Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I'm Yamini Muthanna, Natyacharya Yogacharya from Bangalore. With the blessings of my gurus, Karnataka Kala Tilaka, Dr. Vasundhara Doraswamy, Yoga Visharada, Shri B.N.S. Iyengar, I would like to start my presentation with a Natyarambam shloka, which all the practitioners of Bharatanatyam or Indian classical dance usually start their basic lessons with a Natyarambam shloka, which I will be presenting for a recorded music so that I can present it visually. whatever Sandhya madam said, I'll be just taking it a little further. It was such a beautiful discourse. Thank you, ma'am. So I will start with the Natyarambam shloka, and then I will continue my presentation. Thank you.
प्रणम्य शिरसा देवौ पितामहमहेश्वरौ नाट्यशास्त्रं प्रवक्ष्यामि ब्रह्मणा यदुदाहृतम् देवतानां शिरस्तस्तु गुरूणामस्य संस्थितः वक्षस्थश्चैव विप्राणां शेषे त्वनियमो भवेत् विष्णुशक्तिः समुत्पन्ने चित्रवर्णे महीतले अनेकरत्नसम्पन्ने भूमिदेवी नमोऽस्तुते समुद्रवसने देवी पर्वतस्तनमण्डले नाट्यं करिष्य भूदेवी पादाघातं क्षमस्व मे कटी कर्ण समायत्र कूर्परांश शिरस्तदा समुन्नतमुरश्चैव सौष्ठवं नाम तद्भवे प्रायेण करणे कार्यौ वामो वक्षस्थितः करः चरणस्यानुगच्छापि दक्षिणस्तु भवेत् करः
Continuing my presentation, at the outset, I would like to thank the Ministry of Culture, Sahitya Akademi, Samskrita Foundation, for giving me this opportunity to say a few words in this very important convention. I feel greatly humbled. Thank you very much for inviting me here. This is indeed a great effort to popularize the Deva Bhasha and bring it back to the Indian education system. I am so happy to be a part of this valuable initiative. My talk today takes its basis from Bharata Muni's encyclopedic work, Natya Shastra, which is often referred as the science of dramaturgy. This is a very unique work of Sanskrit literature. Judging by its title, this voluminous text should deal with theatre, but in fact it is an encyclopedia which deals with allied subjects of arts and literature. This valuable Sanskrit text also succeeds in throwing some invaluable light on ancient and medieval Indian culture. Upon the study of its contents, it becomes very apparent that Natya Shastra concerns with every aspect of life in a stylized craft. However, the study becomes even more interesting as it also deals with presenting this on stage for a group of audience and making it a very challenging study. This all-embracing approach in the contents of Natya Shastra is brilliant in its insight, wisdom, and foresight. Being a student of this text for over 3 decades, I still have a lot of questions in mind. It always takes me back to examining the fundamental text with the point of view of its process. In my efforts to study this wonderful text, I see that this is an interplay of Shastra and Prayoga, which is developed over a period of time to form a parampara. We cannot ascertain to the exact time and period or place Natya Shastra was created. The text encapsulates a discourse of diverse discipline. When we speak about parampara, Natya Shastra was always practiced as Guru Shishya Parampara, and the texts were not available for all. The Shishya learnt it under the feet of the Guru. However, today, there is great interest in Indian classical dance. to understand this art into its totality, along with techniques prescribed in the format, the language of Sanskrit is key. The language provides codes on basis of which different styles of sampradayas have developed in different regions of the world. I am an exponent of Bharatanatyam Sampradaya. This form of dance finds its roots in the aesthetics of bhava, rasa, and thala. Bhava is about expressing emotion, rasa is all about the experience of these emotions, and thala is a rhythmic quotient which is very important to bring a structure to the presentation of Bharatanatyam. Well, I'm just saying it in a very short, sentence, but this flows into chapters in Natya Shastra, very beautifully explained, and such an important text for all of us that it's very difficult to capsulate it in half an hour, but I'm just trying to give the gist. Madam has told most of the things, and I'm just taking it from there. All the aspects explained in this great text, Natya Shastra, Bharatanatyam Shaili picks up the basic stance throughout the Nritya presentation or the rhythmic dance. Nritya being dance with abhinaya and meaning, and Natya is the presenting of drama, which is usually done as a group performance. I would like to demonstrate a small piece of Nritya to present an idea as to how the different steppings or the different initial steppings of Bharatanatyam can be gathered together to form a beautiful garland of steps to present Jatiswaram. This is in Rag Vasanta, set to Adithala. Now this was a typical Nritta piece from Bharatanatyam, where a group of are gathered in together to form a chorway and presented to the beautiful swara of Vasanta, Jati Swaram. Now, complete presentation of Bharatanatyam, we pick much more elements from the Natya Shastra, like the Hasta Vinyogas, Drishti Vinyogas, Shiro Bhedas, Griva Bhedas, Charis, Mandalas, Karanas. So many different things are taken from the great text of Natya Shastra to be able to present a beautiful piece of dance for the audience viewing. Okay, so I would like to present a few Hastabedas. Like ma'am said that everybody in a Natya Shala will be exposed to Sanskrit right from the start of Namaskara to the time you start your Natyarambam Pranamam, then to the whole, it all starts from there. And also, these are coming under the basic Bayapata as Pataka, Tripataka, Ardhapataka, Kartari Mukaha, Mayura Ardha Chandrasya, Arala Shukatundakaha, Mushtishta Shikarahasta, Kapitta Katakamukaha, Suji Chandrakala, Padmakosham, Sarpashirastataha, Brigashisha, Simhamuko, Kangola Sola Padmaka or Ala Padmakaha, Chaturo Brahmaraschaiva, Hamsasyo Hamsapakshakaha, Sandamsho Mukulaschaiva, Tambrachuda Trishulakaha, Ashtavimshati, Hastanamevam, Namani Vaikramam Anjalishta Kapotascha Karkata Swastikastataha Dola Hasta Pushpaputu Utsanga Shivalingakaha Kataka Vardanaschaiva Kartari Swastika Vidaham Shakata Shankar Chakra Samputa Pasha Kilakau Matsya Kurmo Varahasya Garudo Nagabandakaha Katva Berundaschaiva Avahistataha Chaturvimshati Hastanam Sanyutaha Kaditakaraha. So when you get into a traditional dance school, you will hear this recitation from all the children who are going to be initiated to dance class, or rather initiating into the dance class, and also this is a normal practice which we always do, practicing the mudra and the hasta vinyogas. Now in the Natya Shastra, each of these hastas are defined, and a very detailed explanation as to when to use it, how to use it, is also being explained in the Natya Shastra in pure Sanskrit. In fact, all these shlokas which we practice in all the Natya Shalas come from the Natya Shastra in the language of Sanskrit, whether they are practicing it in India or whether this has been recited in France. The language is Sanskrit. So it is the most important language for all our Indian classical dance forms, and Deva Bhasha, a boon given to us by the Devas themselves. Similarly, we have Shiro Vedas, Drishti Vedas, Griva Vedas, which I will not take too much time reciting now. I would have loved to if there was time, but I'm going to skip that. And I will go straight into another important part of Bharatanatyam recital is about storytelling, where we are inviting the Jivatma to visualize the Paramatma. This is a pure Abhinaya piece where emotions are being explained and expressed. So I would straight away go to this beautiful Devaranama, which I've chosen a Kannada Devaranama, so that though the language is different, though the language is completely different, this Natya Shastra is one way of bringing Vasudeva Kutumbakam, bringing us all together through this fabulous, through this beautiful and wonderful work of literature, Natya Shastra. I would be presenting a Devarnama, which is in Ragamalika, in praise of Lord Krishna, by our Saint Purandaradasa.
ಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ನಿರಂತರ ಪರಗತಿಗೆ ಇದು ನಿರ್ಧಾರ. ಹರಿಸ್ಮರಣೆ 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 ಮಾಡೋ ನಿರಂತರ ಸ್ಮರಣೆಗೈದ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದನ ರಕ್ಷಿಸಿದ ದುರುಳ ಹಿರಣ್ಯಕನ ಉದರವ ಸೀನಿದ ಸ್ಮರಣೆಗೈದ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದವ ಸ್ಮರಣೆಗೈದ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದ ಸ್ಮರಣೆಗೈದ 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 ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದ ಸ್ಮರಣೆಗೈದ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದ ಸ್ಮರಣೆಗೈದ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದ ಸ್ಮರಣೆಗೈದ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದ ಸ್ಮರಣೆಗೈದ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದ ಸ್ಮರಣೆಗೈದ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದನ ರಕ್ಷಿಸಿದ ದುರುಳ ಹಿರಣ್ಯಕನ ಮುದರವ ಸೀನಿದ ದುರುಳ ಹಿರಣ್ಯಕನ ಮುದರವ ಸೀನಿದ ದುರುಳ ಹಿರಣ್ಯಕನ ಮುದರವ ಸೀನಿದ ದುರುಳ ಹಿರಣ್ಯಕನ ಉದರವ ಸೀನಿದ ದುರುಳ ಹಿರಣ್ಯಕನ ಉದರವ ಸೀನಿದ ಸ್ಮರಣೆಗೈದ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದನ ರಕ್ಷಿಸಿದ ದುರುಳ ಹಿರಣ್ಯಕನ ಉದರವ ಸೀನಿದ ಹರಿಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ನಿರಂತರ ಪರಗತಿಗೆ ಇದು ನಿರ್ಧಾರ ಹರಿಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ತರುಣಿ ದ್ರೌಪದಿ ಮೊರೆಗಿಡಲ ಕ್ಷಣ ಭರದಿಂದ ಅಕ್ಷಯವಿತ್ತ ಮಹಾತ್ಮನ ತರುಣಿ ತರುಣಿ ದ್ರೌಪದಿಗೆ ತರುಣಿ 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 ದ್ರೌಪದಿ ದ್ರೌಪದಿ ಮೊರೆಗಿಡದು ಅಕ್ಷಣ ಹೊರದಿಂದ ಅಕ್ಷಯವಿತ್ತ ಮಹಾತ್ಮನ ಹೊರದಿಂದ ಅಕ್ಷಯವಿತ್ತ ಮಹಾತ್ಮನ ಹೊರದಿಂದ ಅಕ್ಷಯವಿತ್ತ ಮಹಾತ್ಮನ ತರುಣಿಗೆ ದ್ರೌಪದಿ ಮೊರೆಗಿಡನ ಕ್ಷಣ ಭರದಿಂದ ಅಕ್ಷಯವಿತ್ತ ಮಹಾತ್ಮನ ಹರಿಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ನಿರಂತರ ಪರಗತಿಗೆ ಇದು ನಿರ್ಧಾರ ಹರಿಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ತ್ರಿಶಪುರಂತರ ವಿಠಲರಾಯನ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ಒಡೆಯನ ಮುಟ್ಟಿ ಭಜಿಸಿರಿ ತ್ರಿಶಪುರಂತರ ವಿಠಲರಾಯನ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ಒಡೆಯನ ಮುಟ್ಟಿ ಭಜಿಸಿರಿ ಹರಿಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ನಿರಂತರ ಪರಗತಿಗೆ ಇದು ನಿರ್ಧಾರ ಹರಿಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ನಿರಂತರ ಪರಗತಿಗೆ ಇದು ನಿರ್ಧಾರ ಹರಿಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ನಿರಂತರ ಹರಿಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ನಿರಂತರ ಹರಿಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ನಿರಂತರ ಹರಿಸ್ಮರಣೆ ಮಾಡೋ ಹರಿ
Well, to conclude, I would like to confess that I have mentioned only a few aspects from the style of Bharatanatyam, which is from this great text, Natya Shastra. This dance is very demanding, both mentally and physically. It needs a lifestyle. It needs a lifetime of practice. Like Madam mentioned, you need to have a samskara built in yourself to actually be able to present this and present it before the audience who are Paramatma for us. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Sanskrit is a very precious language, our Matrubhasha. I'm very happy that strong and steady work is being put by the Sahitya Akademi and the Samskriti Foundation to bring back this oldest language to the contemporary world. They say that language is the roadmap for our culture. Sanskrit is our margam, is our marga, the soul of our culture. We need to bring it back and we need it to flourish so that our foundation language is there for all of us. Thank you very much. Namaste. Loka samasta sukhinam bhavatu. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
ಅತ್ಯದ್ಭುತೇಶ ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತಿ ಮನೋಹರ ಕಲಾಂ ವಂದ್ಯಾಂ ಭರತೇನ ಸುಪೋಷಿತಾಂ ಭಾತಿ ಮನೋರಮೋಮೇವ ಪ್ರಸ್ತುವಂತಿ ಸೂಯಾಮಿನಿ. ಅತ್ರ ತಾವತ್ ಏಷಾ ಮಹಾಭಾಗ ಅತ್ಯಂತಮೇವ ಮನೋಹಾರಿಣೀಂ ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತಿಂ तत्र प्रादर्शयत् तत्र अभिवन्द्यते एषा इदानीम् अस्माकं के श्रीनिवासराव महाभागान् सम्प्रार्थये सम्मानयितुम् इमां महाभागान्। ततः परम् अस्माकम् अग्रिमकार्यक्रमः वर्तते, यतोहि अस्माकम् आन्ध्रप्रदेशस्य राज्यपालमहाशयाः समागमिष्यन्ति 5 परं। तस्मात् इतः परं पत्रप्रस्तुतिः अधिका भवतु डेमो अपेक्षया इति सम्प्रार्थये इति सूचना प्राप्ता वर्तते। यतोहि इतोपि तिस्रः प्रस्तुतयः सन्ति, समयः समापनीयः। एवं, धन्यवादाः। अमुष्मिन्नेव क्रमे इतः परं तत्र कथकनृत्यप्रस्तुतिः भविष्यति। शलीना सी महाभागा अत्र वर्तते। झारखण्डस्य राञ्चीतः समागता वर्तते। निपुणा कथकनर्तकी भवति, नृत्यनिर्देशिका च, अध्यापिका अपि वर्तते। सा सम्प्रति शुभशङ्कर क्रिएटिव् डान्स् अकादमीं चालयति, यत् राञ्चीनगरस्य प्रमुखेषु नृत्यसंस्थासु अन्यतमा वर्तते। एषा च राष्ट्रीय अन्ताराष्ट्रीयमञ्चेषु ख्यातिप्राप्ता वर्तते। शलीनासी महाभागा समूह प्रस्तुतिः वर्तते। एवं
नमस्कार। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। हम यहाँ हैं संपूर्णता के साथ और आपके सानिध्य में हम आशीर्वचन लेने आए हैं। बहुत दूर से आए हैं, झारखंड प्रदेश के रांची क्षेत्र से आए हैं। आपका आशीर्वाद हमें चाहिए और आपसे मिलने आए हैं और मैं पहले दिन से यहाँ पर हूँ और बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मैं अपने गुरुओं को पहले देती हूँ। आदरणीय हमारी पूज्य उमा शर्मा मैडम जी और हमारे गुरुजी जिन्होंने प्रत्यक्ष रूप में नहीं सिखाया, लेकिन उनके साथ मैं बैठी हूं, आदरणीय श्री बिरजू महाराज जी। तो मैं आज उनसे आशीर्वाद ले रही हूं, मैं उनसे आशीर्वाद मांग रही हूं कि इस संस्कृत सम्मेलन में मैं कुछ करूं जो आपको याद रहे। और मैं आपको बताती हूं, नटराज राजो नृत्यावसाने नटराजो राजो ननाद डक्कम नव पंचवारम, 14 बार डमरू के जो निनाद हुए, उससे जो स्वर निकले, उससे हमारी व्याकरण की प्रस्तुति हुई और जो आज विश्व में मान्य है। क्या मैं प्रश्न करूं कि इससे किसने इसको बनाया? महर्षि पाणिनि। और यहां से उत्पत्ति हुई शब्द की और यहां से उत्पत्ति हुई नृत्य की। तो नृत्य तो हमारे साथ, नटराज जहां वहां नृत्य, जहां भगवान शिव वहां नृत्य। और मैं आपको बताती हूं, अब आगे बढ़ते हैं। हमारी देव भाषा संस्कृत, यह देव भाषा है, देवताओं की भाषा है। और मैं 3 दिनों से अनुग्रहित हूं इस देव भाषा को सुनने के लिए। मैं सुन रही हूं और इसका मैं आनंद ले रही हूं। और मैंने मन में प्रतिज्ञा की है कि जिस तरीके से गुरुकुल की परंपरा चलती है, मैं अपने शिष्यों को लेकर आज आपके सामने हूं। तो मैं इस परंपरा का पालन करने की एक उच्च इच्छुक हूं। मैं इसको कर रही हूं, कोशिश कर रही हूं। अब आपको मैं बताऊं, संपूर्ण भाषा, अगर हम देखें, संपूर्ण भाषा की उत्पत्ति किससे हुई है? संस्कृत से हुई है। मैं भाषा विज्ञान की छात्रा रही हूं। मैंने संपूर्ण आनंद संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालय से भाषा विज्ञान में MA किया है। तभी मैंने पढ़ा और मैंने क्या पढ़ा? मैंने पढ़ा, अगर मातृ शब्द संस्कृत में है तो मात्रो मात्रस जर्मनी और फ्रेंच में है। तो हम कहां हैं? हम वही हैं, हमसे लोगों ने लिया। तो इस तरीके से हमारी भाषा सौष्ठव बहुत अच्छी है। आपको एक बात बताऊं, व्यक्तित्व की पहचान कराने वाली हमारी भाषा है। व्यक्तित्व, इस भाषा, संस्कृत भाषा से आपके व्यक्तित्व का परिचय होता है। कैसे होता है? अगर आप सुनेंगे तो आपको बहुत आनंद आएगा। सुनिए, जब रावण ने लिखा, जटाटवी गलत ज्वलम प्रवाह पावी तस्थले गले वलंबलंबिताम भुजंग तुंगताम मालिकाम डमक 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 निनाद वड्डमरमयम चकार चंद तांडवम तनोतुना शिवा शिवम। सबको पता है, ये पता है? ओके, अब आगे बढ़ते हैं। इसके बाद ये अगर किसी से भी पूछा जाए कि ये किसके व्यक्तित्व को बखान कर रहा है, किसके बारे में बता रहा है, तो सभी बताएंगे रावण। और अगर हम कहें, अगर तुलसीदास जी ने लिखाया रुद्राष्टकम, आपको पता है क्या है? नमामि शमीशान निर्वाण रूपम विभुम व्यापकम ब्रह्म वेद स्वरूपम निजम निर्गुणम निर्विकल्पम निरीहम चिदाकाशमाकाश वासम भजे हम। अगर हम ये बोल रहे हैं, तुलसीदास जी श्री रामचंद्र जी के मुख से कहला रहे हैं, तो व्यक्तित्व का परिचायक है या नहीं? रावण के लिए उस तरीके के शब्द और श्री रामचंद्र जी के लिए बिल्कुल सुमधुर, उनके व्यक्तित्व से मेल खाते हुए शब्द। तब बताइए संस्कृत भाषा कितनी समृद्ध है। और विश्व की सबसे समृद्ध भाषा, संगणक यंत्र में प्रयोग की जाने वाली भाषा, हमारी देव भाषा संस्कृत ही है। आदियोगी, आदियोगी भगवान शिव को कहते हैं। और आदियोगी अर्थात योग के गुरु। आदियोगी की मुद्रा क्या है? ये मुद्रा है आदियोगी। अगर हम नटराज की रूप में, इस मुद्रा में उन्होंने क्या किया? मेरी आवाज आ रही है? अगर हम देखें, एक छोटा सा दानव है जिसे अपस्मार कहा जाता है, और वो अपस्मार प्रतीक है बुराई का। तो वहां पर शिव जी ने क्या कहा? जब इस मुद्रा में भगवान शिव खड़े हैं, एक हाथ नीचे है, वो दिखा रहे हैं कि यहाँ पर आपके भौतिक सुख हैं और एक हाथ दिखा रहा है आध्यात्मिक सुख। तो एक व्यक्ति के पास अगर भौतिक सुख रहे और आध्यात्मिक न हो तो उसका जीवन बहुत नीरस हो जाता है। और आध्यात्मिकता की पराकाष्ठा में जाने के लिए थोड़ी भौतिकता जरूरी होती है। तो इस तरीके से, और अपस्मार, आपको मैं बताऊं, अपस्मार एक राक्षस है। और यहाँ कितने विद्वजन बैठे हुए हैं, आप बताइए कि अपस्मार का अर्थ होता है संस्कृत में एक बीमारी जिसे मृगी कहा जाता है, और एक नटराज आसन है जिसमें कि पैरों को बिल्कुल इस तरीके से ऊपर किया जाता है। उसको करने से ये हमारी बीमारी दूर होती है। कल एक आयुर्वेदाचार्य यहाँ पर आए हुए थे, उनसे हमने बहुत, यहाँ आपके सम्मेलन में उनसे हमने बातें की। मैं कथक योग देती हूँ, तो मैंने उनसे बातें की, उन्होंने कहा बहुत सही। तो ये सारी चीजें, ये हम, और इनके सारे सूक्त कहाँ से आते हैं? हमारी अपनी भाषा संस्कृत से। अब मैं एक और बात कहूंगी, ये हमारा, ये ईश्वर ने प्रदत्त ये समय है, क्योंकि परोक्ष में मुझे बहुत लोग दिख रहे हैं, सामने नजर आ रहे हैं प्रत्यक्ष में, किंतु परोक्ष में और भी बहुत लोग हैं। हम आध्यात्म से जुड़े हुए लोग हैं। कितने लोग यहाँ हैं जो हमें नजर नहीं आ रहे, तो मैं उनका भी आशीर्वाद लेना चाहूंगी। अब आगे बढ़ते हैं। नेक्स्ट कौन सा पैसा? अब हम आगे बढ़ते हैं। हमारे पास शिव और शक्ति, हमारे शरीर में शिव और शक्ति, प्रकृति और पुरुष दोनों हैं। आपने महसूस किया है, आपके अंदर, हर इंसान, हर व्यक्ति के अंदर शिव स्वरूप मौजूद है, निवास करता है। और हर व्यक्ति के अंदर एक माँ का निवास है। हर पुरुष में प्रकृति है और पौरुष है, वैसे ही हर इंसान में शिव और माँ गौरी हैं। आइए हम देखते हैं कि किस प्रकार हमारे बच्चों ने एक तैयारी की है अर्धनारीश्वर रूप, भगवान शिव के अर्धनारीश्वर रूप को हम एक बार देखने की चेष्टा करते हैं, और मैं चाहूंगी इन्हें आपका आशीर्वाद मिले। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। हमारे साउंड में जो भाई लोग हैं उनका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, आपने कल से हमारे लिए काम किया, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। अब हम आगे बढ़ते हैं। क्या हमारे जीवन में हर दिन संस्कृत के वाक्यों का सम्मिश्रण होता है? एक बार मैं बताऊं, आपका यहाँ का असतो मां सद्गमय, आपका सूक्त वाक्य जो हम बचपन से पढ़ते आए हैं और इस पे चलने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। अगर हमने कहा अभिवादनशीलस्य नृत्यं वृद्धा पशोविना चत्वारि तस्य वर्धन्ते, आयुर्विद्या यशो बलम, चार चीजें बढ़ती हैं जो अभिवादनशील है और नित्य वृद्धों की सेवा करता है, अपने बुजुर्गों की सेवा करता है। तो संस्कृत हमें जीना सिखाती है, संस्कृत हमारे अंदर जीने की जिजीविषा पैदा करती है, संस्कृत हमें जीवन देती है। जीवनदायिनी भाषा संस्कृत है। और मैं ये प्रण करती हूं, मैं संस्कृत की विद्यार्थी रही हूं, भाषा विज्ञान में मैंने किया, जैसे मैंने बताया कि मैं झारखंड प्रदेश जाकर अपने बच्चों को जरूर संस्कृत के बारे में कुछ सिखाने की चेष्टा करूंगी। और आप लोगों का सानिध्य, आशीर्वाद चाहिए, क्योंकि संस्कृत को हमें विश्वव्यापी भाषा बनाना है। अब आगे बढ़ते हैं। आज देखिए, आज के युग में हमारे यहाँ हिंदी साहित्य भी चलता है, तो हमारे आज के युग में हिंदी साहित्य में कितने सारे जो शब्द हैं उनका प्रयोग हूबहू तत्सम संस्कृत निष्ठ शब्दों का प्रयोग हो रहा है। कैसे हो रहा है? राम की शक्ति पूजा सबने पढ़ी है, ठीक है। राम की शक्ति पूजा की पहली पंक्तियां 4 में बताती हूं। अगर किसी विद्यार्थी ने पढ़ी है तो जरूर हाथ उठाना, मेरे साथ दोहराना मत, हल्ला होगा पर उठाना। रवि हुआ अस्त ज्योति के पत्र पर, लिखा रह गया राम रावण का अपराजेय समर। आज का तीक्ष्ण शर विदित क्षिप्रकर वेग प्रखर, शतशैल संवरणशील नील नभ गर्जित स्वर। विच्युरित वह निराजीव नयन हत लक्ष्यवाण, लोहित लोचन रावण मद मोचन महियान। अनिमेष राम वंशदिंग भाव, विदांग बद्ध को दंड मुष्टिखर रुधिर साव। पढ़ा है? अब इसको मैं बताती हूं आगे। आप देखिए, आज हम सुन रहे हैं पूरे विश्व में एक शब्द चल रहा है, लॉ ऑफ अट्रैक्शन। हमने सबने सुना है, हम सुनते आ रहे हैं, बहुत प्रचलित है। क्या हमारे देश में यह प्राचीन काल से रहा है? आप दुर्गा सप्तशती के एक वाक्य को सुनिए, बहुत बड़ा विशाल ग्रंथ है मां का, मार्कंडेय ऋषि का। आप उसके एक वाक्य को सुनिए, यम यम चिंतयते कामम तम तम प्राप्नोति निश्चितम। यह क्या है? आप जिस भी चीज की अभिलाषा करिए, इच्छा करिए, संपूर्ण ब्रह्मांड उसे आपको देने को प्रस्तुत रहता है। यह हमारा संस्कृत ग्रंथ बताता है। यह हमारी संस्कृत की पूंजी है जो आज भी है। नहीं कह सकते कि संस्कृत नहीं है, संस्कृत है, हमारे अंदर है, हमारे नसों में है, हमारे शास्त्रों में है। वरना कालिदास जी मेघ को दूत कैसे बनाते? मेघ को दूत बनाकर जो संदेश भेजा जा सकता है वह अप्रतिम है। जिस प्रकार से मेघ एक रूप ले लेता है, उसी तरीके से श्री रामचंद्र जी ने जब राम की शक्ति पूजा शुरू हुई तब उन्होंने क्या कहा? उन्होंने एक मौलिक कल्पना की। उन्होंने सोचा कि मां इस रूप में, क्योंकि मां किधर थी? रावण के पक्ष में। तो मां कैसे रावण के पक्ष में हो सकती हैं? क्यों? क्योंकि रावण ने क्या कहा कि रावण ने मां को अपने साथ ले लिया, और तभी जामवन ने कहा कि और देखिए हमारे यहां कितनी बात, श्री रामचंद्र जी ने जामवन की बात मानी और उनके आज्ञा को शिरोधार्य किया, और उन्होंने कहा कि आप मां की पूजा करिए। किस तरीके से करिए? और मां कैसे प्रकट हुई? उन्होंने बिल्कुल मौलिक कल्पना की। वाम पद असुर स्कंध पर रहा दक्षिण हरि पर, ज्योतिर्मय रूप हस्त दश विविध अस्त्र सज्जित। मंद स्मित मुख लख हुई विश्व की श्री लज्जित, है दक्षिण में लक्ष्मी सरस्वती वाम भाग। दक्षिण गणेश कार्तिक बाएं रण रंग राग, मस्तक पर शंकर पद पद्मों पर श्रद्धा भर, श्री राघव हुए प्रणत मंद स्वर वंदन कर। इस प्रकार से श्री रामचंद्र जी ने जब ये मौलिक कल्पना की तो मां बिल्कुल उसी रूप में साक्षात उस युद्ध भूमि में प्रकट हुई, और उसके आगे हमें पता है कि श्री रामचंद्र जी की जीत हुई। इसे मैं एक बार आपके समक्ष दिखाना चाहती हूं।
स्कंद पर रहा दक्षिण हरि पर, ज्योतिर्मय रूप हस्त दश विविध अस्त्र सज्जित।
ज्योतिर्मय रूप हस्त दश विविध अस्त्र सज्जित।
मंद स्मित मुख लख हुए विश्व के श्री लज्जित, है दक्षिण में लक्ष्मी सरस्वती राम भाग। दक्षिण गणेश कार्तिक आए रण रंग राम, मस्तक पर शंकर पद पद्मों पर श्रद्धा भर। मस्तक पर शंकर पद पद्मों पर श्रद्धा भर।
श्री राघव हुए प्रणत मंद स्वर वंदन कर।
श्री राघव हुए प्रणत मंद स्वर वंदन कर।
मेरा नाम शालीना है। शालीना के साथ एक शब्द है शालिनी, आपने सुना होगा। अब शालीन जब रखा गया तो माता जी ने कहा इसके साथ टाप प्रत्यय लगे तो शालीना हो जाएगा, तो इसके साथ मेरा नाम भी संस्कृतमय हो गया, शालीना। अब आगे बढ़ते हैं। मां भागीरथी की तरंगों की तरह हमारी संस्कृत की पावनता है। मां भागीरथी हैं जिनके अनुसार जो मां भागीरथी है शिव की जटाओं से वो आई हैं, तो मां भागीरथी के तरंगों की तरह संस्कृत की पावनता राष्ट्र के उत्कर्ष, गरिमा और बोध भव्यता को दिखाने वाला है। आइए एक बार हम देखते हैं किस प्रकार शिव की जटाओं से भागीरथी का उद्गम हुआ। हमारे यहाँ वेदों को, वेद उपनिषद, अगर हम ऋग्वेद का पहला सूक्त देखें, अग्नि मीले पुरोहितम यज्ञस्य देव ऋत्विजम होतारम रतन धातमा, इस श्लोक से हमारे आर्ष ग्रंथों की परंपरा शुरू होती है। उद्दात, अनुदात, स्वरित, इन तीन शब्दों के साथ होम होता है, हवन होता है। हमारे ऋषिगण मंत्र दृष्टा रहे हैं और जो भी हवन जाता है इस तरीके से जाता है, सीधे हम जिन्हें अर्पित करना चाहते हैं अपने देव को, वहां चला जाता है। अब हम आगे बढ़ते हैं। एक वेद से, वेद की कुछ पंक्तियां हमारे बच्चे आपके सामने प्रस्तुत करेंगे।
जटाधरा सनातनाय देव्याय देवाय दिगम्बराय तस्मै नकाराय नमः शिवाय तस्मै नकाराय नमः शिवाय।
अब एक बात कहूं, आगे बस कंप्लीट ठीक है, ओके। अब मैं आपको एक बात बताती हूं। जब मुझे भाई साहब ने कहा कि आपको आना है यहाँ पर, तो पहले थोड़ी घबराहट हुई, थोड़ी हिचकिचाहट हुई, क्योंकि ये प्रदेश पहली बार है जहां मैं आ रही हूं। लेकिन आज आपसे मिलकर बिल्कुल ऐसा लगा, अयम निजा परो वेत्ति उदार चरितानाम तु वसुधैव कुटुंबकम। आज मुझे ऐसा लगा कि सारी वसुधा मेरी अपनी है, यहां भी संस्कृत। आप देखिए, जब मैं आई, आपको मैं बताती हूं, जब मैं आई तो क्योंकि मैंने कहा, और सबसे पहले भगवान बालाजी के दर्शन मुझे हुए जिस दिन मैं यहाँ पे आई, तो ये सबसे पहला मेरा आशीर्वाद मुझे मिल गया। फिर मुझे लगा अब तो 3 दिन बहुत अच्छे होने वाले हैं। और हमारे बच्चे 2 दिन पहले झारखंड से आए, ट्रेन लेट होती गई। हमारे मैक्सिमम बच्चे उस प्रदेश से हैं जहां नृत्य सीखा नहीं जाता। उन्हें कहा जाता है कि नृत्य करके क्या करोगी, आदिवासी संप्रदाय से आते हैं हमारे अधिकतर बच्चे। मैंने कहा कि नृत्य सीख करके आप कुछ करो ना करो, आप एक अनुशासित जीवन जीने की कला सीखोगे। तो मेरे साथ ऐसे बच्चे हैं जो आज मंच पे आपके सम्मुख हैं। ये बच्चे 2 दिन ट्रेन का सफर करके आए। जैसा मैंने कहा कि मैं गुरु शिष्य परंपरा को बहुत मानती हूँ, और उसके तहत ये बच्चे एक ही बार कहने, और आपको आश्चर्य लगेगा, इनके घर से इन्हें कोई सपोर्ट नहीं है। और आज जब ये मंच पे नाच कर जाएंगे तो शायद झारखंड से और 20-50 बच्चे नृत्य के क्षेत्र में आगे आए। तो मैं जब यहाँ पर उतरी तो मुझे पता चला कि मैंने बहुत ज्ञान अर्जित किया, बहुत ज्ञान, और बिल्कुल लगता है मैं एक परिवार से दूसरे परिवार में आई, और हर ज्ञान को, हर शब्द को मैं आत्मसात करके आज जा रही हूँ, और उसको मैं अपने क्षेत्र में दूंगी। मैं दिल्ली में भी रहती हूँ और मेरा कर्म क्षेत्र झारखंड रांची है। तो इस तरीके से मैं सब कुछ सबको देने का प्रयास करूंगी। आदरणीय संध्या मैम से मैंने आज बहुत कुछ सीखा। इतने सुंदर शब्दों में नाट्य शास्त्र का वर्णन, मन बिल्कुल कर्णप्रिय थे और मन बिल्कुल प्रसन्न रहा। अब मैं आपको एक वाकया थोड़ा सा बस सुनाना चाहती हूँ। जब मैं एयरपोर्ट पर आई, जैसा था ना, मन बिल्कुल विचलित रहता है, तो बस मैं एयरपोर्ट पर आई और मैं अपना लगेज ले रही थी, और उसी समय मुझे एक कॉल आया। और वो कॉल आया कि मैंने सोचा कैब लेना है, कैसे जाना है, एक अपरिचित स्थान है मेरे लिए। तो वहां पर एक कॉल आया, मैडम मैं लता मंगेश बोल रही हूँ। तो एक बार और वो जब कॉल आया तो मुझे बड़ा अच्छा लगा, क्योंकि देखिए लता मंगेशकर में थोड़े ही शब्द बच रहे थे मंगेश में मंगेशकर होने के लिए। तो जब लता जी का कॉल आया तो मुझे लगा, ढांढस मिला, मुझे लगा मैं अपरिचित नहीं हूँ, मेरे परिचितों की संख्या यहाँ बढ़ने लगी है। तो उसके बाद तो फिर सब आपके सम्मुख है, मैं हमेशा हर 3 सत्र मैंने अटेंड किया। तो इस तरीके से एक अभूतपूर्व जो यादें हैं उसे लेकर मैं जा रही हूँ। समय कम है और एक छोटा सा तराना शीतजल पावक गगन समीर के साथ प्रस्तुत होगा, फिर यहाँ से हम लोग विदा लेंगे। कभी और आपसे पुनः मुलाकात होगी, और मैं आप सबों को आवेदन मेरा रहेगा, जरूर रांची क्षेत्र में पधारें, हमारा सौभाग्य होगा आप लोगों का वहां स्वागत करने के लिए। धन्यवाद। बस 2 मिनट, 1 मिनट कर।
तन तद्धा तद्वां तद्धा तद्वां तद्धा तनदीं तदीं तदानी तनदीं तदीं तदानी तनदीं तदीं तदानी तनदीं तदीं तदानी सरे हरे मा हरे बाबा मवनी बनी बमा कनी जानी जानी पापा कनी जानी जानी कनी पापा रे 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 ममा पापा बनी नी सा सा ममा पापा बनी नी सा सा ममा पापा बनी नी सा सा
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मैडम। और आपकी ये जो शिष्य संपत है और आपकी ये जो परंपरा है इसका आप अभिवर्धन करें, इसके लिए एक श्लोक में कहना चाहता हूँ। नृतौ या लीना सुमति शलीना साहित्य संगीत कला प्रवीणा। क्योंकि यहाँ पर इन्होंने, हम तो वैयाकरण है तो शिव के उपासक हैं ही, इन्होंने पूरा ब्रह्ममय कर दिया। यद्यपि ये विष्णु का क्षेत्र है तो भी इन्होंने इसको शिवमय जगत कर दिया। और वैसे देखा जाए तो ब्रह्म शिवस्य हृदयं विष्णु विष्णोश्च हृदयं शिवः, ऐसी परंपरा हमारी है कि उनमें कोई भेद नहीं है। तो नृतौ या लीना सुमति शलीना साहित्य संगीत कला प्रवीणा। साहित्य संगीत, साहित्य शास्त्र भी इन्होंने, भाषा शास्त्र साहित्य शास्त्र उसका उपलक्षण है साहित्य शब्द, और कला है, संगीत भी था, सभी कुछ था। तो साहित्य संगीत कला प्रवीणा शिवस्वरूपम च नृत्येन ब्राह्मम प्रादर्शयत सावतु शिष्य संपत। इनकी शिष्य संपत बढ़ती रहे उसके लिए हम कामना करते हैं। और ऐसी महाभागा जो है शलीना महाभागा जी अपनी टीम के साथ यहाँ पर उपस्थित हों, कि उनका सम्मान करने के लिए मैं GSR कृष्णमूर्ति सर जो कुलपति जी हैं उनसे प्रार्थना करता हूँ कि उनका सम्मान करके उन्हें अनुग्रहित करें। इदानीं क्रमः भवति कुचिपुडि नृत्यस्य। तत्र प्रदर्शनपरव्याख्यानं भविष्यति यशोदा महाभागायाः, यशोदा ठकोरे महाभागा। अहं सम्प्रार्थये कृपया वेदिकाम् आगत्य स्वविषये किञ्चित् प्रस्तुतम्।
Namaskaram to all of you. I'm not even saying your and present practitioners of Kuchipudi for contributing to me as a Kuchipudi artist, and I'm grateful to the hundreds of women hereditary dancers, the Devadasi Kalavantalu dancers who have made me a dancer today. I am particularly grateful to the Department of Culture, Sahitya Akademi and the National Sanskrit University for inviting me over to make this presentation to you. how do I qualify to be here? I'm not a Sanskritist. I cannot speak Sanskrit. But I am a dancer in whose life Sanskrit is an essential, important part, and we dance to Sanskrit. We have Sanskrit seeping in our body all the time. So I just feel it's much of what it makes of us, because like ma'am was saying this morning, Sanskrit gels into our indigenous languages beautifully. I don't want to use the word upgrading the language, but saying making a different language by itself, by gelling into the indigenous languages. So they say language forms a person's personality and culture. I think that's what makes us Indians just there, wherever we are across the world, because of this inclusion of language. Today, while I am required to talk about the role of Sanskrit in Kuchipudi dance, I focus on the role of Natya Shastra in Kuchipudi being recognized as a classical dance form. My co-dancers, my predecessors, have spoken quite a bit, particularly ma'am has, Mrs. Purecha, Dr. Purecha has spoken at length and in so much detail about the Natya Shastra being a part of Indian classical dances. But this talk will be based on my ethnographic and auto-ethnographic work, both as a Devadasi art form dancer and as a Kuchipudi dancer. I started off as a Kuchipudi dancer at about 6.5, 7 years old with Dr. Vempati Chinnasatyam. So I will come to that a little later. But I argue today that though Kuchipudi has got its recognition as a classical dance form from the Sangeet Natak Academy in 1959, it was not until 1964 that it was included in the national festivals or the practitioners were considered classical dance form. Now the argument can always be, क्यों होना है classical? Why should it be classical? Folk क्यों नहीं हो सकता है? Absolutely. Kuchipudi comes from folk dances. Kuchipudi comes from the dance forms or the art forms of Pagativesham. It comes from the local indigenous Yakshaganam. It comes from the Devadasi dance form. Today my topic focuses on the solo form of Kuchipudi. Why did they aspire for the classical dance status is because during the nationalist period, there were a few privileges given to classical dances. So the artists did better if they had the classical dance status. Today, Sangeet Natak Academy doesn't bestow. It was necessary at that time. Today, it is not necessary. Sangeet Natak Academy calls them major dance forms. So at that time, in this frenzy to work for a classical dance, that was when Dr. Vempati Chinnasatyam, my guru Srimati Shobha Naidu's guru, Dr. Vempati Chinnasatyam had just come to Chennai, and after his stint in the movies, he started his institute. That was when he also took to the Natya Shastra. Dr. P.S.R. Apparao Garu, Ponangi Srirama Apparao had written the Natya Shastra in the Telugu language at that time. And that was when we in the Telugu land, for the first time, knew that there was something called the Natya Shastra. So Master Garu, as we would address Vempati Master, in my dance class, so coming to a little anecdote, I was a little girl and my teacher, Mrs. Shobha Naidu, Vempati Master and Apparao Master would sit in the dance class Sunday mornings, 10 o'clock. And we would have this long theory class. Apparao Master would translate the slokas from the Natya Shastra and Vempati Master would translate those slokas to practice. So I'm not doing all of them because I know Yamini has done quite a few of them for you. But then I do remember Sunday morning, 11 o'clock, I was hungry and there was no dance class but only a theory class, and I was not enjoying it one bit. But today I value those classes so much. Master Garu, Vempati Master, kept at it. He just kept at it. He brought in the Sanskrit slokas and identified movements in Kuchipudi dance, saying, oh yeah, this is in Natya Shastra. And he also filled in gaps. We have to talk history. So he also brought in movements from the Natya Shastra and filled it into Kuchipudi for that kind of recognition. So in effect, what happened was, our basic step, can you hear me? Our basic step of Islam was identified as a Vedanta chart and said, this step is Vedanta chart. So, in spite, now in the dance class itself, Modatadugu Cheyi, do the first step, changed into Elaka Kredita Chari Cheyi. The language, the terminology changed. So how did Sanskrit really get into our system? The way we are dancing, Medatipu would be do your neck movement, or Medatipu became Sundari Grivan Cheyi. So we became all Sundaris and we did Sundari Grivam. And then Pakkaki Chusetappudu Sachi Drushti Ivu. And I was this little girl, dark with short hair and a short frock with pajama inside, and I would wonder what was happening there. And I struggled to learn the Chaturasrau, Tadot Vrittau, the Vrittahastas, so many of them, and the Sthanakas. Why am I talking? I'm not getting into the demonstration of each of them because I can take a few classes to go into it. But we were taught the Sthanakas, and those were included into our, I say included because a movement like Shakatasyachari did not exist in the dance form of Kuchipudi because Kuchipudi comes from Yakshagana. Yakshagana being a theatre form, it did not have a grammar of steps earlier. So the grammar of steps in the solo form came from the existing women hereditary dancers and Vempati Master's addition of steps based on the Natya Shastra. So, a movement like became part of the repertoire because this was the Shaktasya chant. And so we were told, do the Shaktasya, you were not told to do the next. There are movements like the Dola Padachari. The Dola Padachari did not exist because it was... Dola Padachari did not exist in the Kuchipudi repertoire because it was men dancing. So, in all due respects to men, I don't think this movement would look too good unless you're fantastic with the movement on a male's body. Vempati Master was dancing with women. So he brought in all these charis, the Vichava chari, with Ilan, with freedom. You know the movement of Vidyut Bhranta chari, where he goes up and he comes. And incorporating Sivashtakam and other Sanskrit Ashtakalu into the repertoire itself was his doing. Why did he do it? Because he was one person who came to Chennai and he was hell-bent. He was extremely influenced by Rukmini Devi Arundel Kalakshetra. And he said, I am going to make Kuchipudi another classical form. So he worked on it, and every song that he choreographed had a Sanskrit sloka to start off with. Even if the song was something like Ananda Tandava Made, it was in Telugu. The sloka that came before that was Sarupyam. It was a Sanskrit sloka. So Sanskrit really became one tool, one route for us to bring this classicism into Kuchipudi. Too much talking, a little bit of dancing. So these charis in the Natya Shastra are basic units of movement which involve the foot, shank, thigh, waist. So these charis are woven into units of movement and called jatis. So I will just demonstrate a small jati for you, because even in the Natya Shastra, actually the Natya Shastra is the text of drama. Bharata, for some reason, was not the dancer's friend. He was the dramatist's friend. It was much later Sangdeva, Sangeeta Ratnakara, who actually spoke for dancers. And they said, we will give you movements for dance. But I will do a small jati for you, a very small jati. Nagarjuna, bit 2 cheddam. Bit 1 skip chesam.
Takajam, 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 takajam.
So, we come back to the Natya Shastra. While I present this talk to you, I will intersperse this with clips from a Tarangam, Govardhana Giridhari. Why did I choose this? In fact, the jati also is a bit from that. Why I chose a Tarangam is, in his endeavor to actually bring in the Sanskrit, the classical status, Vempati Master consciously plucked off the role of Varnam in the list of songs performed in Kuchipudi. He took away the Varnam and he placed it with Sri Narayana Tirtha's Tarangam, Sri Krishna Leela Tarangini, a song from that. So today, even though Kuchipudi does not have a margam, what do I mean by margam for the non-dancers? A margam is a typical sequence of songs that are performed in a dance. Like you have in Bharatanatyam, you have the Alaripu, Shabdam, Jatishwaram, Varnam, Padam, Javali, it goes on. Kuchipudi is not bound by a margam. Let me put it that way. This is because of the various areas that have contributed to what is Kuchipudi today. But he took off the Varnam because the Varnam mainly was Telugu. All other songs were Telugu. We had Annamacharya, we had Shabdams, which are all in Telugu. But the central song that he had was Tarangam. This Govardhana, another thing that he did was, while he taught his movements like from the Natya Shastra, Akampitam, Kampitancha, Dhutam, Vidhutamevacha, Parivahitam adhutam avadhutam tadhanchitam nihanchitam paravrutta utshiptam chapyadogatam lolitam cheti vigneyam trayodasavidham siraha. So this was the Siro Bhedas that he taught us. Sure, these Bhedas, all Bhedas, Natyashastra is so beautiful. It's a study on the anatomy of the person. So you will not believe it. This is for the students, the dancers of course know this. Natyashastra talks about the pupil movements. It talks about the eyeball movements and how in a particular bhava, how does the pupil behave is what it talks about. So did Bharata, a question for all of us is, did Bharata write it and we got the dance from the Natyashastra, or did Bharata write what existed at that time? Would you want to dance what you learn from bodily experience, or would you want to dance what is written in a text? That's a question. But here, we were taught not only to incorporate these movements into the nritta part of it, the dancing part of it, but also into the abhinaya part of it, because in Kuchipudi, drama is so important. It comes from a drama tradition, and even as we do our solo performances, we did not let go of our drama angle. So you will see that when we did Nihanchitam, they were different. He would talk about Nihanchitam. When you do Kamsa, would you do this very crooked Nihanchitam for Kamsa? Because Nihanchitam says, lift your shoulder, bend your head to the side and frown. So this is for Kamsa. Nihanchitam for a heroine would be a heroine who's with a friend, would be a different one. So the body language changes with each movement. Nihanchitam for a little child who's trying to do what mischief, trying to think what mischief goes next. So the point I'm trying to make is, Bharata talks about each movement separately, and he talks about the combination for a particular expression to come across. Now, a little question that I will leave with you is, when I dance now, I will do the Govardhana episode where Krishna picks up the Govardhana hill to save his devotees. You will see that these movements unconsciously are translated into the Abhinaya also. Right? Govardhana Giridhara, Sri Krishna Leela Tarangini by Yati Narayana Tirtha, one song from that, set to music by Srimati Vakkalanka Sarala Rao.
अमित कल्याण गुण अगणित लीला अपरिमित नंद घन नंद बाला अमित कल्याण गुण अगणित लीला अपरिमित नंद घन नंद बाला अमित कल्याण गुण अगणित लीला अपरिमित गोकुल पालक परमानंद गोवर्धन गिरिधर गोविंद
So as we go on, when we talk about Sanskrit, another anecdote from history also has to be. Sanskrit was told to us, we were all told by the British, that Sanskrit is the language of the gods. And so, only a certain class of people, only a certain category of people are entitled to Sanskrit. Another move, yet again, to create hierarchy and discrimination in the country. Unfortunately, at that time, we bought into it.
Please conclude your...
I need to conclude?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I do the last piece or no? I'll finish it with this. Today, it gives me great pleasure that we have removed that hierarchy. We have everybody learning Sanskrit. The beauty of Sanskrit is here for everybody, and we are grateful to all the teachers who give this to us with an open mind and open heart. Once again, I remain grateful to everyone who has invited me over to talk to you. It's always a pleasure to talk to students. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
बहवः धन्यवादाः. तत्र एषा महाभागा तावत् सम्प्रति कैलिफोर्निया प्रान्तस्थ सिलिकान् आन्ध्रा विश्वविद्यालयस्य कुचिपुडी विभागस्य अध्यक्षा भवति सुदूरात् समागता वर्तते. अतः कुचिपुडी विधाधवेयं विद्यामिमां वितनोत्यखिल भुवने एषा स्वयं यशोदा विलसतु सदैव यशःपूर्णा इति अस्माकं कामना वर्तते अस्याः कृते. इदानीम् अस्याः सम्माननाय इदानीं संगीतापुरेचा महाभागां सम्प्रार्थये. प्लीज कम एंड फेलिसिटेट. ततः अग्रे धन्यवादाः. इदानीम् अन्तिमा प्रस्तुतिः भवति. ओडिशी नृत्यं कविता द्विवेदी महाभागाः सम्प्रार्थ्यन्ते. कृपया आगत्य झटित्येव.
Namaskar. A very good evening to all of you, very good afternoon to all of you. Well, I've been told that there is a time constraint, so I would be just touching upon the very important aspects, because we just heard such great Vidwans speaking for last 3 days, and today's session, which was very engrossing, starting with the ma'am from Sandhya ma'am, how she explained very finer aspects of Natya Shastra and Abhinaya Darpana. So I think I need not touch upon those aspects. As I have been asked to talk about Sanskrit and dance, so I will be pertaining it to particularly the Odissi dance. And I extend my gratitude to the Sanskrit University, to Shri K.S. Rao sir, from the Sahitya Akademi, the secretary sir, for giving me this opportunity. It was a great honor for me to listen such great stalwarts since last 3 days. And every day, each chapter of my life was opening, I would say, with this convention. And I was discovering and rediscovering, learning and unlearning so many things through this convention. So I'm very honored, and at the feet of Balaji and Sri Jagannath, I just try to present what I have learned in my short journey as a dancer, as a performer, and as a learner. I still say that I'm a learner, I'm a student. It's like vast ocean, and we have just taken a drop of it, and that is what I'm going to share with you all. Well, why this Sanskrit for me? Why I have like this topic for me? For me, I would like to share a very personal thing that when I was in school, in the class 6th standard, when we are given the choice of either Hindi or Sanskrit. And there I chose Sanskrit. I don't know what was the reason, but I think it had a reason, which I would like to share it with you, that when I was in the class 6, I've heard about the Sanskrit teacher, Mrs. Chakravarti. I was in Ladyavan school, and I've heard that she's very good. And when I got to have her classes, slowly I was falling in love with Sanskrit language and her method of teaching, and then the language. I don't know, my mind was working so smoothly, connecting it so easily, very comfortably. And my mind was responding to each word she was teaching us. I still remember pathati, pathatah, pathanti, pathasi, pathatah, pathatah, pathami, pathava, pathama. And I could find music in it, which in the morning sir was mentioning, Shri Rani Sadashiv ji. Today in the morning you spoke about the musicality of the Sanskrit words, how it has that music in it. So I was finding it more rhythmic and rhyming. So my passion of learning and knowing Sanskrit was growing onto me at a very higher speed, and to my surprise, I scored highest marks in Sanskrit in the 10th boards. So I think for a student, it is very important to have a very good teacher of Sanskrit who gives all his or her understanding and making it more fascinating, more deeper understanding of the words. Well, now let me just move on to the Odissi aspect of the dance. Well, as you all know, that Odissi is a graceful and lyrical dance form from the state of Odisha, belonging to 2nd century BC. And it draws inspiration from the temple sculptures, paintings, literature. And Natya Shastra itself mentions about the word Odra. And that Odra is referring to the Odisha and the dance form. So it is the Sanskrit text which gives us the first-hand information about the existence of the dance forms. And when we talk about postures, Sandhya ma'am has already spoken about the Shilpa Shastra, which we all refer, which describes how to keep the hands and how to have the posture. And then there is a name to it according to the postures or karanas and how they are being used in the dance vocabulary. And when we talk about the technical aspect, of course, we refer to Natya Shastra and Abhinay Darpan, but there is also an Abhinay Chandrika, which was written in the 15th century by Dr. Maheshwara Mahapatra, which describes exclusively about how to have the aharya of the dance form, about the hastas, about the pada bheda. And I need not go into very elaborative way, but it's a matter of study by everyone if you can get hold of it, Abhinay Chandrika. And well, I'm just cutting it short. Well, okay, now I will be coming upon the aspect of the Abhinaya. in dance, which is a very pertinent aspect of any dance form. And you just heard such good paper on the presentation on the different dance styles. But yes, Odissi is a very bhavanga pradhan dance form, where it has the abhinaya or the expressions as well as the nritya aspect is very much there. But here, Odissi is very much associated with the Gita Govindam of the 12th century, which in the morning this young scholar Pratik Chaudhary has mentioned and talked about in so much elaborative way. So this Gita Govinda, of course, I find it very, very important for the Odissi dance form, which is very lucid in nature and very lyrical in its presentation, in its words, and the shlokas which are being sung has so much deep impact in the mind of the listener as well as the performer that automatically the rasa is created and transformed and transmitted to the audience. And there is a rasa swadhana between the two. So it has a very great impact, the Gita Govinda. And the same Gita Govinda, as you all know, was being sung by the Devadasis inside the sanctum sanctorum of Lord Jagannath temple. So I feel that we as a human being, definitely we admire, but I feel that Lord Jagannath is the biggest admirer of the Gita Govinda that is still sung there. And I feel that we are doing this 3 days convention, but he listens 365 days. So this is, again, speaks that how Gita Govinda is an integral part of the rituals of the temple of the Lord Jagannath. So we cannot escape as an Odissi dancer to have a performance without the Gita Govinda. And the language, you all know that how it is very clear. If you just, a layman can also, if puts an ear and mind, understands it very easily. So this single work of Gita Govinda has influenced writers, poets, painters, scholars, and later on many Odia songs were written following the text of Gita Govinda, such as the songs of Banamali Das, Gopala Krishna. And here I would like to draw one attention that we have a very good magnum opus called Champu, Kishora Chandranana Champu, which is written by Dr. Kavisure Baladevarath in the 15th century, following the lines of Gita Govinda. And it is again a very regional language. Odia is the mother tongue. But when we perform or when we read about it, it has so many Sanskrit words in it. Like Jasa Barore, Jatharthare, Jano Mu Tohori Re, Jamala Bhudhara Nibha Payodhara, Maradaniya Chakarare. Or when we talk about how Krishna says that Javat Pada Kanjara Samadagajagati, like your feet is like a lotus and your walk is like an elephant, Gajagati. And you put it on my head, it is on the same lines as Dehi Pada Pallava Mudaram. So you see the similarities, the continuation of the Gita Govinda, how it has impacted the other poets. And same like Kuru Yadu Nandana is same as Leela Nidhi Hai. So like that, this Champu is a kavya which has this poem written having the first word, the same consonant. Like Jasa Barore, Jatharthare, Jano Mu Tohori Re. So Ja, or Leela Nidhi Hai, Laje Mu Goliti Sarhi, Luchai Chokahi Shyamo Hai, Dio Mo Lagi Sarhi. So this is how the Ja, La thing happens, and the song is there. And so one can say that Gita Govinda, of course, starts, you all know, we have been listening Gita Govinda since morning, so I need not elaborate it, how it has, it starts with the spiritual connotations, with the Dashavatara, with the Mangala Gitam of Shrita Kamala, Kucha Mandala, Dhrita Kundalaye, and how even then it takes on to the nature, Basante, Basanti, how the spring season is described, and then how the Nayak, Naika, the situation-wise, the character-wise is being described in the Gita Govinda. I find it very, very fascinating to perform Gita Govinda, and the eternal love of Radha and Krishna, and the separation, the pain, the agony, the union, the divine union, it's all there in the Gita Govinda. One single text, how it has influenced many. And of course, we have like Natya Manorama, and there is like, of course, we as a dancers, we always look for other Sanskrit texts, be it Kalidasa's Ritu Samharas, Raghuvansham, Shakuntalam, Kumara Sambhav, or like Ramayana, Mahabharata. These are the classic texts which gives us ample opportunity as a dancers to choreograph our dance pieces. In that case, of course, Adi Shankaracharyaji's shlokas are being used by every classical dance forms. So just a personal thing I would also again like to share here, that how the things become easy when you have the Sanskrit text before you. I remember once there was an international conference on global warming. And I was asked to do a piece, and I was thinking how to do it. Of course, then I went to the Sahitya Akademi library, sir, and there I found Paryavaran Kavyam. And that became my base for composition, and when I presented it before the delegates, they could understand, and they said that within, like we have been doing the same subject for last 3 days, but within that 45 minutes presentation, we could have the essence of the global warming. So Sanskrit is a very powerful language, medium for connecting people, for making that communication very easily. And it has given me a very great opportunity to understand the Sahitya and to compose. And not taking much of time, I would like to present before you the Ashtapadi, which is very dear to me, written by Jayadevji of the Odisha of the 12th century. Nindati Chandanama Indu. And I think I need not explain. By listening to it, you can feel here the essence of the song. Of course, it is a Virahini Naika, and it is presented in the Odissi dance style, choreographed by my father and my Guru Hare Krishna Beheraji. Presenting you the last presentation. Thank you. Number two.
Mano शेखर भया देव भावनाया तोइलीना भावनाया तोइलीना सारी रहे तब Tirupati
महान्तः धन्यवादाः।
Thank you.
कविता कामिनी रूपा जगन्नाथस्य किङ्करी शङ्कराय अर्पयत्येषा षोडशीं कलामोडिशीम् इति। इदानीं तावत् सर्वापि प्रस्तुतिः अत्रैव समाप्ता। इदानीम् अहं सम्प्रार्थये अस्माकं यशस्वी महाभागं डॉक्टर यशस्वी जी आगत्य सर्वेषां धन्यवादसमर्पणं करोतु इति। तावता राज्यपाल महाशयाः अपि समागताः सन्ति, अतः एकतन्त्रेण सर्वेषां
नाट्यसभायै नाट्यविबुधसभायै च नमः।
क्षणमेकं त्वरायां क्षन्तव्यो अयं जनाः। इदानीम् अहं हरेकृष्णशतपथि महाभागान् अस्माकं कुलपतिचरान् आह्वयामि, आगत्य महाभागायाः कविता द्विवेदी महाभागायाः सम्माननं कुर्वन्तु इति। वस्तुतः गवर्नर् महाशयाः सिद्धाः सन्ति आगन्तुम्।
अग्निशोमात्मकं जगत् द्वयं हवा इदं न तृतीयमस्ति शुष्कं चैवार्द्रं च यच्छुष्कं तदाग्नेयं यदार्द्रं तत्सौम्यं। संस्कृत समुन्मेष रूपे अस्मिन् महायज्ञे अग्निस्थानिकाः कार्यक्रमाः भवन्ति बौद्धिक कार्यक्रमाः, सोमस्थानिकाः कार्यक्रमाः भवन्ति सांस्कृतिक कार्यक्रमाः। इदानीमेव सांस्कृतिक कार्यक्रमः यः प्रावर्तत नाट्य कार्यक्रमः सः, तस्य कार्यक्रमस्य